Marcus Chen straightened his tie one more time before entering the glass doors of Tech Vanguard Solutions. The building was modern and impressive, with tall windows and sleek furniture in the lobby. He had been preparing for this interview for weeks. This was his final round, and he wanted everything to be perfect. The receptionist, a young woman with blonde hair, smiled at him. "You must be Marcus Chen. Please have a seat. Someone will come get you in a few minutes." Marcus sat down in one of the leather chairs and looked around. The waiting area was quiet except for the soft music playing from hidden speakers. He noticed he was the only black person in sight. The other candidates waiting looked nervous too. One was a white man in his 30s typing quickly on his laptop. Another was an Asian woman reviewing notes on her phone. Marcus pulled out his own phone and reviewed his presentation one last time. He had 7 years of experience in software engineering. His resume included work with cloud architecture, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. He had graduated from Georgia Tech with honors. He had led 3 major projects at his current company. On paper, he was exactly what Tech Vanguard needed. "Marcus Chen?" a woman's voice called out. He looked up to see a professional-looking woman in her mid-30s. She wore a gray business suit and had her brown hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her smile seemed warm and genuine. "I'm Sarah Mitchell, senior recruiter here at Tech Vanguard. It's wonderful to meet you." She shook his hand firmly. "Thank you for having me," Marcus replied, returning her smile. Sarah led him through a hallway lined with photos of the company's achievements. Employee of the Month pictures hung on the walls. Marcus noticed most of the faces were white. A few were Asian. He saw only one black employee in all the photos. They entered a conference room where a man in his early 40s sat waiting. He stood up and extended his hand. "Marcus, I'm Derek Thompson, recruiting manager. We've been looking forward to this conversation." "The pleasure is mine," Marcus said, shaking Derek's hand. The interview began smoothly. Sarah and Derek asked him about his background, his education, and his career goals. Marcus answered each question with confidence. He had practiced these responses many times. "Tell us about your experience with cloud architecture," Derek asked, leaning forward with interest. Marcus explained his work designing scalable cloud solutions for his current employer. He described how he had reduced server costs by 40% while improving performance. He talked about the team he had led and the challenges they had overcome. Sarah made notes on her tablet. She nodded as he spoke. "Impressive. Very impressive. Now let's dive into something more technical," Derek said. "Can you walk us through how you would approach building an AI integration system for a client with legacy software?" This was Marcus's moment to shine. He stood up and walked to the whiteboard. For the next 20 minutes, he drew diagrams and explained his methodology. He discussed compatibility issues, data migration strategies, and security protocols. He talked about how to train the AI models and how to ensure smooth integration with old systems. Sarah and Derek exchanged glances. They seemed genuinely impressed. Derek asked several follow-up questions and Marcus answered each one without hesitation. "You've clearly done this before," Sarah said with a smile. "I have," Marcus replied. 3 times, actually. Each project had unique challenges, but the core principles remained the same. The interview continued for another hour. They discussed Marcus's leadership style, his approach to problem-solving, and his vision for the future of technology. Marcus felt more confident with each passing minute. The conversation felt natural, almost easy. "What interests you most about Tech Vanguard?" Derek asked. Marcus had prepared for this question. "Your company has a reputation for innovation. I've read about your work with small businesses, helping them compete in the digital age. That mission resonates with me. I believe technology should be accessible to everyone, not just big corporations." Sarah smiled and made another note. "That's exactly the kind of thinking we value here." As the interview wound down, Derek stood and shook Marcus's hand again. "Thank you for your time today. You've given us a lot to think about. We'll be in touch soon," Sarah added. "We have a few more candidates to interview, but you're definitely a strong contender." Marcus felt a surge of hope. "Thank you both. I really appreciate the opportunity." Sarah walked him back to the lobby. As they walked, she made small talk about the weather and the traffic in Atlanta. She seemed friendly and genuine. When they reached the reception area, she shook his hand one more time. "Have a great rest of your day, Marcus." "You too," he said. Marcus left the building feeling cautiously optimistic. The interview had gone better than he expected. He had answered every question well. Sarah and Derek had seemed impressed with his skills and experience. Maybe this was finally it. Maybe he would get the job he deserved. He walked to his car in the parking garage and sat behind the wheel for a moment. Something felt slightly off, though he couldn't quite put his finger on it. There had been a moment, just a brief second, when Sarah and Derek had exchanged a look he couldn't read. But he pushed the thought away. He was probably overthinking it. Marcus started his car and headed home. He would call his wife and tell her how it went. She had been his biggest supporter through this job search. She would be excited to hear the good news. Back inside Tech Vanguard Solutions, Sarah and Derek returned to the conference room. They gathered their notes and tablets. The room was quiet for a moment. Derek looked at Sarah with a raised eyebrow. "So what did you think?" Sarah glanced at the door to make sure it was closed. She set her tablet down on the table and crossed her arms. "He's qualified." "Very qualified, but?" Derek asked. Sarah shook her head slowly. "Let's discuss this one over lunch." "I have thoughts." Derek nodded. He understood what she meant without her saying more. They had worked together for 5 years. They had developed their own way of communicating. They packed up their materials and left the conference room. Neither of them noticed the small camera mounted in the corner of the ceiling. The building had recently installed a new security system. Cameras now covered every conference room, every hallway, and every office. The company had spent a lot of money on the upgrade after some equipment had been stolen a few months earlier. The cameras recorded everything. Video and audio. Every conversation, every meeting, every moment. The footage was stored on secure servers in the building. Only a few people had access to the recordings. The CEO was one of them. Sarah and Derek went their separate ways. Sarah returned to her office to check her email. Derek went to his desk to review the next candidate's resume. Both of them planned to meet for lunch in an hour. Neither of them had any idea that their next conversation would change everything. They had no clue that their words would soon be heard by the one person in the company who had the power to end their careers. They walked through the building confident and unconcerned, believing they were safe to speak their minds. Marcus drove home through the Atlanta traffic, his mind full of hope. Sarah and Derek prepared for lunch, their minds full of very different thoughts. And somewhere in the building, the security cameras continued recording, capturing every moment, waiting for someone to review the footage. The stage was set. The players were in position, and nobody knew that everything was about to fall apart. The clock on the wall showed 12:30 when Sarah entered the conference room carrying a plastic bag from the sandwich shop down the street. Derek was already there, opening his container of pasta. The room smelled like garlic and bread. "Close the door," Derek said, not looking up from his food. Sarah pushed the door shut with her foot and sat down across from him. She pulled out her chicken salad and a bottle of water. "Everyone else is out. I saw the whole team leave for that new Thai place." "Good," Derek said. "We can talk freely." The conference room was one of the smaller ones with a table that seated 8 people. A whiteboard hung on one wall, still showing notes from a morning meeting about sales projections. The security camera in the corner was so small and discreet that most employees forgot it was even there. Sarah and Derek had certainly forgotten about it. Sarah took a bite of her salad and shook her head. "So, Marcus Chen, where do we even start?" Derek laughed. "I know, right? I mean, on paper, he's perfect. The guy can definitely do the job. But that's the thing," Sarah said, leaning forward. "Can you imagine him here? With our team?" "What do you mean?" Derek asked, though his smile suggested he knew exactly what she meant. Sarah looked around the empty room, then lowered her voice anyway. "Come on, Derek, you saw him. Do you really think he would fit in with our culture?" Derek set down his fork. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" "I'm saying," Sarah began carefully, "that we need to think about team dynamics. We need someone who will mesh well with everyone. Someone the clients will be comfortable with." Derek nodded slowly. "The clients, right, that's a good point." "Exactly," Sarah said, gaining confidence. "We send our engineers to client sites all the time. They represent our company. They need to look the part, and Marcus doesn't look the part." Derek asked. Sarah threw up her hands in frustration. "Look, I'm not racist. You know I'm not racist. But we have to be realistic. Our clients are mostly conservative companies. Banks, insurance firms, old family businesses. They have certain expectations. Derek picked up his pasta again. I hear what you're saying. But his credentials are really strong. Georgia Tech, 7 years of experience, those projects he led. So what? Sarah shot back. We can find those same credentials in other candidates. Better candidates, better how? Derek asked. Sarah paused, choosing her words. Remember that guy from Yale? The one interviewing next week? His resume isn't quite as strong, but he's got potential, and he would definitely fit in better. The white guy? Derek said. I didn't say that, Sarah replied quickly. I said the Yale guy. There's a difference, Derek smiled. Right. The Yale guy. I remember his application. Nice-looking resume, clean-cut in his photo. Exactly, Sarah said. Clean-cut, professional, that's what we need. They ate in silence for a moment. Derek twirled his pasta on his fork. Sarah crunched on her salad. The air conditioning hummed softly. You know what bothered me? Sarah said suddenly. The way he acted so confident, like he already had the job. Derek looked up. Marcus? He seemed nervous to me. No, he tried to hide it, but I could tell. He walked in there thinking he had it in the bag. Probably used to getting special treatment, because of diversity quotas and all that. Derek nearly choked on his pasta. Oh my God, Sarah, you can't say that. Why not? We're alone, Sarah said. And you know it's true. These days, companies are falling all over themselves to hire minorities. It doesn't matter if they're the best candidate or not. Well, Marcus is pretty qualified, Derek admitted. But is he the best? That's the question, Sarah said. She imitated Marcus's confident voice, making it deeper and adding an exaggerated swagger. Oh, I've done this 3 times. Oh, I led this team. Oh, I reduced costs by 40%, Derek laughed. Come on, he didn't sound like that. Pretty close though, Sarah said, grinning. And did you see that tie? What was that color, purple? Who wears a purple tie to an interview? It was blue, Derek said, whatever. It was trying too hard, Sarah replied. Derek leaned back in his chair. So what's our plan? We can't just reject him without a reason. HR will ask questions. Cultural fit, Sarah said immediately. That's what we say. He's qualified, but we don't think he's the right cultural fit for our team. That's pretty vague, Derek pointed out. That's the point, Sarah said. It's subjective. We can't be wrong about our own assessment of cultural fit. It's our judgment call. Derek thought about this. And what about the other candidates? We bring in more interviews. The Yale guy for sure. Maybe that woman from Boston, the blonde one. Her resume was decent. We show that we're being thorough. Then we pick the one who actually fits. The white one, Derek said quietly. The right one, Sarah corrected. The one who will make our clients happy. The one who will blend in with the team. The one who won't make waves or cause problems. You really think Marcus would cause problems? Derek asked. Sarah set down her fork and looked directly at him. I think people like him always find something to complain about. They come in with a chip on their shoulder. They're always looking for racism where there isn't any. One mistake, one wrong word, and suddenly we're dealing with HR complaints and lawsuits. That's a pretty harsh assessment, Derek said. But he didn't sound like he disagreed. I'm being realistic, Sarah insisted. I've been in this business for 15 years. I know how this works. We need to protect the company. We need to protect ourselves, Derek nodded slowly. Okay, cultural fit. I can work with that. Good, Sarah said, pulling out her phone. I'll send Marcus the rejection email this afternoon. Something polite and generic. We appreciate his time. We had many strong candidates. We decided to go in a different direction. Classic, Derek said with a smile. Neither of them noticed the camera in the corner, its tiny red light barely visible. Neither of them knew that every word they had spoken was being recorded in crystal-clear audio. Neither of them realized that 3 floors above them someone was watching and listening. James Park sat in his office, staring at his computer monitor with growing fury. He was the CEO and founder of Tech Vanguard Solutions. At 53 years old, he had built this company from nothing. He had always prided himself on running an ethical business. He had always believed his team shared his values. He had been wrong. James had been reviewing security footage for the past hour. 2 weeks ago, someone had stolen a laptop from one of the conference rooms. He wanted to see if the cameras had caught anything. He had been scanning through footage from different rooms, different days, looking for any suspicious activity. Then he had clicked on today's feed from conference room C. He had seen Sarah and Derek enter with their lunch. He had almost moved on to the next camera. But something about their body language made him pause. They looked secretive, conspiratorial. He had turned up the volume, and now he sat frozen, his hands gripping the edge of his desk, listening to his senior recruiters destroy a candidate's chances because of the color of his skin. He listened to them mock Marcus Chen. He listened to them plot to reject a qualified candidate in favor of someone less qualified but white. James felt sick to his stomach. He grabbed his phone and pulled up Marcus Chen's application. He read through the resume carefully. Georgia Tech graduate, 7 years of solid experience. Glowing recommendations. Everything Tech Vanguard needed. He scrolled to Marcus's photo. A young black man with an honest smile and intelligent eyes looked back at him. James thought about his own journey. He was Korean American, the son of immigrants. He had faced his own share of discrimination in the business world. He had built Tech Vanguard partly to create the kind of workplace he had wished existed when he was younger. A place where talent mattered more than appearance. A place where everyone had a fair shot. And now he discovered that his own recruiters were doing exactly what he had fought against. On the monitor, Sarah was laughing at something Derek said. James felt his jaw tighten. He opened his drawer and pulled out his phone charger. He needed to save this footage. He needed to document everything. His hand shook slightly as he began recording the screen with his phone. He would need this evidence. This wasn't just disappointing. This was illegal. This was discrimination, pure and simple. James watched Sarah and Derek finish their lunch and pack up their garbage. They left the conference room smiling, completely unaware that their careers at Tech Vanguard Solutions had just ended. James stopped the recording and sat back in his chair. He needed to think carefully about his next steps. This required more than anger. It required precision. It required justice. He picked up his office phone and dialed an extension. Minji, this is James. I need you and Patricia in my office immediately. We have a serious situation. 20 minutes later, 2 women sat in James Park's office. Both looked concerned. They had never seen their CEO this angry before. Minji Kim was the chief legal officer. She was 48 years old with short black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had her laptop open on her knees, ready to take notes. Patricia Rodriguez was the head of human resources. She was 52 with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She had worked in HR for almost 30 years and had seen many difficult situations. But the look on James's face told her this was something different. Thank you both for coming so quickly, James said. His voice was tight with controlled anger. I need you to watch something. But I warn you, it's going to make you very upset. He turned his monitor so they could both see the screen. Then he played the security footage from the conference room. He played the entire conversation between Sarah and Derek. Minji's face remained neutral, but her fingers flew across her keyboard as she took notes. Patricia's face went from confused to shocked to furious. By the end of the video, her hands were clenched into fists. When did this happen? Minji asked calmly. Today. About 2 hours ago, James replied. And this is Marcus Chen they're discussing? Patricia asked. Yes, I pulled up his application file. He interviewed this morning for the senior engineer position. James handed Patricia a printed copy of Marcus's resume. Patricia scanned it quickly. He's highly qualified. More qualified than our last 3 hires in that department. Exactly, James said. And they're planning to reject him because of his race. They said so explicitly. Minji looked up from her laptop. This is clear discrimination. Illegal under federal law, Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. Also violations of state law and company policy. I know, James said quietly. That's why I called you both immediately. Patricia stood up and started pacing. This is bad, James. This is really bad. If they've done this to Marcus Chen, how many others have there been? James nodded. That's exactly what I want to know. Patricia, I need you to pull all hiring data from Derek and Sarah's department for the past 2 years. Every candidate they interviewed. Every rejection, every hire. I want to see if there's a pattern. I'll have it by tomorrow morning, Patricia promised, and I want to know if there have been any complaints about them, formal or informal. Anything that might have been mentioned but not officially reported, James added. Patricia's face fell. James, there have been complaints. The room went silent. James stared at her. What do you mean? Patricia sat back down heavily. Nothing formal. Nothing in writing. But over the past year, I've had 3 different candidates reach out to me privately. All of them were minorities.
All of them felt something was off about their final interviews with Sarah and Derek. And you didn't tell me?
James's voice rose slightly. They didn't want to make formal complaints, Patricia said defensively. They said they couldn't prove anything. It was just a feeling. And honestly, James, feelings aren't enough to take action. I needed evidence. Well, now we have evidence, Minji said sharply. Very clear evidence. James rubbed his temples. A headache was forming behind his eyes. What exactly did these candidates say? Patricia pulled out her phone and scrolled through her notes. The first one was last February, an African-American woman interviewing for project manager. She said the interview started professional, but then got uncomfortable. She felt like they were asking her strange questions about whether she would be comfortable working with certain types of clients. Code for white clients, Minji said, typing rapidly. The second was in June, Patricia continued. A Hispanic man applying for the sales team. He said Derek made several comments about his accent and asked if he could tone it down when speaking to clients. James felt his anger growing. And the third? Last month, an Indian woman for the data analyst position. She said Sarah asked her directly if she was planning to have children soon, and if that would interfere with her ability to travel for work. That's illegal to even ask, Minji pointed out. I know, Patricia said, but again without proof, without a formal complaint, my hands were tied. These candidates just wanted to vent. They didn't want to start a fight. James stood up and walked to his window. His office overlooked downtown Atlanta. He stared out at the city, his mind racing. How did I not know about this? How did I miss it? You trusted your management team, Patricia said softly. That's not a crime, James. But it was a mistake, James replied bitterly. He turned back to face them. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Minji, I need you to secure this footage legally. Make multiple copies. Store them safely. I want this evidence protected. Already done, Minji said, holding up a USB drive. I downloaded it while we were talking. I'll make 3 more copies and store them in different locations. Good. Patricia, start that audit immediately. I want data on every single hiring decision Sarah and Derek have made. Race, gender, qualifications, outcomes, everything. What about Sarah and Derek? Do I tell them about the investigation? Patricia asked. No, James said firmly. Not yet. I don't want them destroying evidence or getting their story straight. Let them think everything is normal for now. And what about Marcus Chen? Minji asked. Are we going to tell him? James thought about this carefully. Not yet. First, I want to see the full scope of what we're dealing with. Then I'll decide how to proceed. But I can tell you right now, Marcus Chen is going to get a job offer from this company. What if he's already accepted something else? Patricia asked. Then we'll make him an offer he can't refuse, James said. That man deserves this position. He earned it. And our company needs people like him. Patricia nodded. I'll pull that data tonight. I'll work late. Thank you, James said. I know this is a lot to ask. No, Patricia said firmly. This is exactly what I should be doing. This is my job. I should have pushed harder when those candidates came to me. I should have investigated even without formal complaints. Don't blame yourself, James said. The fault lies with Sarah and Derek, not with you. Minji closed her laptop. James, I need to prepare you for what's coming. When we fire them, they might sue. They might claim wrongful termination. James smiled grimly. Let them. We have video evidence of them committing discrimination. Any lawyer worth their degree will tell them they don't have a case. Derek's been here 5 years. Sarah's been here 7. They might fight hard, Minji warned. Then we'll fight harder, James replied. I built this company on principles. I'm not going to let bigots destroy what we've created here. The 3 of them spent the next hour planning their investigation. They discussed what data they needed, how to collect it quietly, and what legal steps to take. Minji outlined the company's exposure to lawsuits from candidates who had been discriminated against. Patricia estimated they might have wrongly rejected as many as 20 qualified minority candidates over 2 years. The number made James feel physically ill. Finally, as the sun began to set outside his window, James dismissed them both. Get me that data as fast as you can, and keep this absolutely confidential. Only the 3 of us know about this right now. Understood, they both said. After they left, James sat alone in his darkening office. He pulled up Marcus Chen's application one more time. He read through the entire file slowly. The resume, the cover letter, the recommendations. This was exactly the kind of employee Tech Vanguard needed. He opened his email and found the automatic rejection letter that Sarah had already sent. It was polite and generic, just like she had promised Derek. We appreciate your interest in Tech Vanguard Solutions. After careful consideration, we have decided to pursue other candidates whose experience more closely aligns with our current needs. Complete nonsense, James thought angrily. Marcus's experience aligned perfectly with their needs. That was the whole problem. James composed a new email to Patricia. Extend Marcus Chen's application timeline. Tell Sarah and Derek that I want to personally review all final candidates for senior positions from now on. Don't mention Marcus specifically. Make it sound like a new policy. He hit send and leaned back in his chair. His phone buzzed. It was a text from his wife asking when he would be home for dinner. He texted back that he would be late. She responded with a concerned emoji. She knew something was wrong. James stood up and walked back to his window. Somewhere out in this city, Marcus Chen was probably checking his email right now, probably reading that rejection letter, probably feeling disappointed and maybe not even surprised. How many times had Marcus faced this kind of discrimination? How many doors had been closed in his face because of his skin color? How many times had he been told he wasn't the right fit, when what they really meant was he wasn't the right color? James made a promise to himself. Marcus Chen would get justice. And Sarah Mitchell and Derek Thompson would learn that discrimination had consequences. He pulled out his phone and called Marcus's number directly. It went to voicemail. James left a message. Mr. Chen, this is James Park, CEO of Tech Vanguard Solutions. I'd like to meet with you personally to discuss your application. Please call my office to schedule a time. I look forward to speaking with you. Then he sat back down at his desk and got to work. He had a company to fix. Marcus Chen stared at his phone in confusion. He had listened to the voicemail from James Park 3 times already. The CEO wanted to meet with him personally. That was unusual. Very unusual. His wife, Jennifer, sat next to him on their couch. What do you think it means? I have no idea, Marcus admitted. I already got the rejection email yesterday. Why would the CEO want to meet with me after I've been rejected? Maybe it's for a different position, Jennifer suggested hopefully. Marcus shook his head. Companies don't usually work that way. If they want you for something else, the recruiter reaches out. The CEO doesn't get involved. So what are you going to do? Marcus looked at his phone again. Part of him wanted to ignore the message. He had been through this before. The disappointment, the false hope, the rejection, it was exhausting. But another part of him was curious. What could the CEO possibly want? I'll call back, he finally said. What's the worst that can happen? Another rejection? Jennifer squeezed his hand. Whatever happens, we'll figure it out. Marcus called the number James Park had left. A polite assistant answered and scheduled him for 10 o'clock the next morning. Mr. Park has cleared his entire morning for you, she said. That was even more unusual, Marcus thought. But he agreed to the meeting. The next morning, Marcus put on his best suit, the same one he had worn to the original interview. As he drove to Tech Vanguard Solutions, his stomach twisted with nerves. He had no idea what to expect. The receptionist recognized him from his previous visit. Mr. Chen, Mr. Park is expecting you. I'll take you right up. She led him to the elevator and pressed the button for the top floor. His office is at the end of the hall. You can't miss it. Marcus thanked her and stepped off the elevator. The top floor was quieter than the rest of the building. Thick carpet muffled his footsteps. Original artwork hung on the walls. This was where the executives worked. James Park's door was open. Marcus could see him standing by his window looking out at the city. He knocked gently on the doorframe. James turned around and smiled. He was a Korean-American man in his 50s with gray hair at his temples and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He crossed the room quickly and shook Marcus's hand. Marcus Chen, thank you so much for coming. Please sit down. James gestured to a comfortable chair across from his desk. Marcus sat, trying to read the situation. James didn't look like he was about to deliver bad news. He looked genuinely pleased to see Marcus. I'll get right to the point, James said, sitting in the chair next to Marcus rather than behind his desk. I've reviewed your application and I'm very impressed. Thank you, sir, Marcus said carefully. Though I have to admit I'm confused. I received a rejection email yesterday. James's expression darkened slightly. Yes, about that. There have been some internal issues in our recruitment process, issues I only recently became aware of. That rejection was sent in error. Marcus felt a flicker of hope but pushed it down. He had learned not to get his hopes up too quickly. I see. Tell me about yourself, Marcus, James said, leaning forward. Not the resume version. The real version. Who are you? What drives you? Marcus was taken aback by the personal question. Most interviews were formal and focused on technical skills, but James seemed genuinely interested. Well, Marcus began slowly. I grew up in Atlanta. My parents immigrated from South Korea when I was 2. They worked incredibly hard to give me opportunities. My father was an accountant. My mother was a teacher. They must be proud of what you've accomplished, James said. I hope so, Marcus replied. I've always loved technology. Even as a kid, I was taking apart computers and putting them back together. My parents thought I was crazy breaking perfectly good equipment. James laughed. I did the same thing. My parents were not happy when I destroyed their VCR trying to see how it worked. Marcus relaxed slightly. James was easy to talk to. I went to Georgia Tech because I wanted to stay close to home. My parents were getting older and I wanted to be nearby. After graduation, I could have gone anywhere, but I chose to stay in Atlanta. Family is important to you, James observed. Very important, Marcus confirmed. My wife Jennifer, she's a teacher like my mother was. We've been married for 3 years. We're thinking about starting a family soon. That's wonderful, James said warmly. Tell me about your career goals. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Marcus thought about this carefully. Honestly, I want to lead. I want to build teams and create solutions that make a real difference. I'm good at coding, but what I really love is bringing people together to solve complex problems. That's exactly the kind of thinking we need, James said. Tell me about a project you're particularly proud of. Marcus described a project from his current job. His company had a client who was struggling with an outdated inventory system. Marcus had led a team of 5 engineers to build a completely new system from scratch. They had finished under budget and ahead of schedule. But the part I'm most proud of, Marcus said, was training the client's staff to use the new system. A lot of them were older workers who weren't comfortable with technology. I spent extra time making sure they understood everything. I created simple training videos and held extra sessions. You went above and beyond, James noted. It was the right thing to do, Marcus said simply. The system only works if people can use it. What's the point of building something great if nobody understands it? James smiled broadly. Marcus, I'm going to be direct with you. I want you to work for Tech Vanguard. Not the position you originally interviewed for. Something better. Marcus's heart raced. I don't understand. I'm creating a new role. Senior engineer reporting directly to our VP of engineering. You would lead a team of 10 engineers. You would work on our most important clients. And you would help me build the kind of company I've always envisioned. Marcus couldn't believe what he was hearing. That's an incredible opportunity, but I have to ask. What changed? Why the rejection and then this? James's expression became serious. Marcus, I'm going to be honest with you, though I can't share all the details yet. There were problems in our recruitment process. Problems I was not aware of until recently. I'm addressing those problems, but I want you to know that your rejection had nothing to do with your qualifications or your interview performance. What kind of problems? Marcus asked carefully. The kind that have no place in any company I run, James said firmly. The kind that I'm taking very seriously. I can't say more right now, but I promise you justice will be served. Marcus understood more than James was saying. He had suspected something was off during his interview. The strange looks between Sarah and Derek. The way they had seemed impressed but also hesitant. He had felt it before at other companies. The subtle discrimination that was hard to prove but impossible to miss. I appreciate your honesty, Marcus said quietly. You deserve honesty, James replied. And you deserve this position. You earned it with your skills and experience. So what do you say? Would you like to join Tech Vanguard? Marcus thought about his current job. It was fine, but it didn't challenge him anymore. He thought about this opportunity, working directly with leadership, building something meaningful. But he also thought about what James had implied. Problems in recruitment. Issues being addressed. Can I ask you something direct? Marcus said. Of course. If I accept this position, am I going to walk into a hostile environment? Am I going to be the token hire? James looked Marcus straight in the eye. I won't lie to you. This company has problems I didn't know about. but I'm fixing them. Starting now, you won't be a token hire. You'll be a leader. And yes, there might be some people who resist change. But I promise you I will support you 100%. Marcus appreciated the honesty. James wasn't promising a perfect situation. He was promising support and commitment to change. That was worth something. What about salary? Marcus asked. James named a figure that was 20% higher than Marcus's current salary. Plus full benefits, stock options, and performance bonuses. And I'm personally committing to mentor you. I want to see you succeed here. Marcus felt his defenses crumbling. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for. Not just a job, but a chance to make a real impact. I need to talk to my wife, Marcus said. Of course, James said. Take the weekend. Think about it. Talk to Jennifer. This is a big decision. They stood up and shook hands. James walked Marcus to the door. Marcus, regardless of what you decide, I want you to know something. You impressed me. Not because of quotas or diversity goals. You impressed me because you're talented, driven, and exactly the kind of person who makes companies better. Marcus felt emotion tighten his throat. Thank you, Mr. Park. That means a lot. Call me James, the CEO said with a smile. Marcus left the building feeling dazed. He sat in his car for a few minutes, processing everything. Then he called Jennifer. How did it go? She asked immediately. They offered me a job, Marcus said. A better job than the one I originally applied for? Jennifer screamed with excitement. That's amazing. I'm so proud of you. There's something else, though, Marcus said. He explained what James had told him about problems in the recruitment process. I think I was initially rejected because of discrimination. Jennifer was quiet for a moment. But they're fixing it? The CEO says he is. Do you believe him? Jennifer asked. Sarah Mitchell arrived at work Monday morning feeling good. It was a beautiful day in Atlanta, and she had her favorite coffee in hand. She checked her email and saw a meeting request from James Park for 9 o'clock. Conference room A. The subject line simply said, important discussion. Also invited were Derek Thompson, Patricia Rodriguez from HR, and Minji Kim from legal. Sarah frowned slightly. Legal being involved was unusual, but maybe they were discussing new hiring policies or something. She texted Derek. Did you see the 9 a.m. meeting? Derek replied immediately. Yeah, no idea what it's about. Maybe new procedures? Sarah shrugged it off and went about her morning. She had 3 candidate phone screens scheduled for later. Business as usual. Derek arrived at conference room A at 8:55 holding his coffee and tablet. Sarah was already there, sitting in her usual spot. They chatted about the weekend while they waited. At exactly 9 o'clock, Patricia entered, followed by Minji. Both women looked serious. Neither smiled or made small talk. They sat down across from Sarah and Derek. Sarah felt the first hint of worry. Something was wrong. James Park entered last. He closed the door behind him and locked it. That was very unusual. Sarah and Derek exchanged confused glances. Thank you all for coming, James said. His voice was cold and formal. Nothing like his usual friendly tone. Derek, Sarah, I need you to watch something. He set up his laptop and turned it toward them. Then he pressed play. Sarah's face appeared on the screen. She was sitting in a conference room eating salad. Derek was with her. They were talking about Marcus Chen. Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. Oh God, no, the video played. Every word they had said. Every horrible racist comment. Every joke. Every dismissive remark. Sarah heard her own voice mocking Marcus. She heard Derek laughing. She heard herself planning to reject him because of his race. Derek tried to interrupt. Mr. Park, I can explain. Be quiet, James said sharply. Watch the whole thing. The video continued for another 10 minutes. Sarah wanted to disappear. She wanted to run from the room. But her legs wouldn't move. She was frozen in her chair, watching her career end in real time. Finally, the video stopped. The conference room was silent except for the sound of Sarah's panicked breathing. That video was recorded last Monday, James said quietly. In this building. In conference room C. You both discussed Marcus Chen, a highly qualified candidate, and decided to reject him based solely on his race. It wasn't like that, Derek said quickly. You're taking it out of context. We were just talking, just venting. Venting? James's voice rose. You were planning discrimination. You were violating federal law, state law, and every company policy we have. Sarah finally found her voice. Mr. Park, please. I made a mistake. I was having a bad day. I didn't mean— Yes, you did, Patricia interrupted coldly. You meant every word. And this isn't the first time. She slid a thick folder across the table. This is a complete audit of every hiring decision you two have made in the past 2 years. Want to guess what we found? Derek opened the folder with shaking hands. Pages of data stared back at him. Charts, statistics, names. 47 minority candidates were interviewed for positions by your team, Patricia continued. 43 were rejected. Of those 43, 38 were more qualified than the white candidates you ultimately hired. That's not possible, Sarah whispered. It's not only possible, it's documented, Minji said, speaking for the first time. Every rejection, every hire, every email. We have it all. She pulled out her own folder. We also have testimonies from 3 previous candidates who complained about your behavior. They didn't file formal complaints because they couldn't prove anything. But now we can. Derek's face had gone from pale to red. This is entrapment. You can't record us without consent. Actually, we can, Minji said calmly. Georgia is a one-party consent state for recordings. And more importantly, you were on company property using company resources. You had no expectation of privacy. This recording is completely legal. Sarah started crying. Tears ran down her face, smearing her makeup. Please don't do this. I have a family. I have a mortgage. Marcus Chen has a family too, James said coldly. Did you think about that when you decided to reject him? Did you care about his mortgage when you mocked him? I wasn't mocking, Sarah started. James held up his hand. Don't insult my intelligence by lying. I heard you imitate his voice. I heard you laugh about his tie. I heard every single word. Derek tried a different approach. Mr. Park, I've been with this company for 5 years. Sarah's been here 7. We've done good work. We've made you money. Doesn't that count for something? You've also violated the law repeatedly, James replied. You've cost this company talented employees. You've exposed us to lawsuits, and you've betrayed every value we claim to stand for. So what happens now? Derek asked. His voice had lost all its confidence. Now you're fired, James said simply. Effective immediately. Security is waiting outside to escort you to your desks. You have 15 minutes to collect personal items. Company property stays here. Your access cards, your laptops, your phones. You can't do this, Derek said angrily. I'll sue. I'll take you to court. Please do, Minji interrupted. We would love to present this video to a judge. We would love to show the court 2 years of discriminatory hiring practices. Please sue us. See how that works out for you. Derek's mouth snapped shut. Sarah was sobbing openly now. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You're not sorry you did it, Patricia said harshly. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference, James stood up. Patricia will email you information about your final paychecks and COBRA benefits. Minji will send you formal termination letters. And let me be very clear about something. If either of you speak to anyone about this case, if you try to contact Marcus Chen, if you try to damage this company's reputation, we will pursue legal action. Are we clear? This is unfair, Derek said weakly. Unfair? James's voice shook with anger. You want to talk about unfair? How about Marcus Chen, who did everything right and got rejected because of his skin color? How about the 37 other qualified people who lost opportunities because you're bigots? Don't you dare talk to me about unfair. There was a knock on the door. James unlocked it. 2 security guards stood outside. Please escort Ms. Mitchell and Mr. Thompson to their desks. Give them 15 minutes to collect personal belongings. Then escort them from the building. They are no longer employees here. Sarah stood up on shaky legs. Derek grabbed his tablet, but one of the security guards gently took it from him. Company property, sir. As they were led from the room, Sarah looked back at James one more time. I really am sorry, she said softly. James didn't respond. He just watched them go. After the door closed, he sat down heavily. Patricia and Minji remained seated. That was harder than I expected, James admitted. They deserved it, Patricia said firmly. I know, James replied, but it still feels terrible. Sarah has 2 kids. Derek just bought a house. They should have thought about that before they decided to be racist, Minji said without sympathy. James nodded. What about the legal exposure? Are we going to face lawsuits from the other candidates they rejected? Minji considered this. Possibly. We should reach out to the 3 who previously complained. Offer them settlements. It's the right thing to do and it protects the company. Do it, James said. Whatever they need. This company caused them harm, even if I didn't know about it. Patricia looked at her notes. What do we tell the rest of the staff? People are going to notice that Sarah and Derek are gone. James thought about this carefully. We tell them the truth. Not the details, but the broad strokes. We discovered discrimination in our hiring practices. We took immediate action. We're implementing new policies to make sure it never happens again. People will talk, Patricia warned. Let them talk, James said. I'd rather have gossip than have people think discrimination is acceptable here. Minji closed her laptop. James, I have to say, you handled this exactly right. A lot of CEOs would have tried to cover it up, avoid the publicity. You did the right thing. I didn't have a choice, James said. I built this company to be better than that. If I let this slide, what does that say about who we are? The 3 of them sat in silence for a moment. Through the window, they could see Sarah and Derek being escorted across the parking lot to their cars. Both looked devastated. Do you think they'll learn from this? Patricia asked. James shook his head. I doubt it. People like that rarely change. They'll blame everyone but themselves. They'll call it political correctness or reverse discrimination or whatever makes them feel better. At least they can't hurt anyone else here, Minji said. True, James agreed. He stood up. Thank you both. I know this wasn't easy. After they left, James returned to his office. He had one more task to complete. He picked up his phone and called Marcus Chen. Marcus, it's James Park. I wanted to let you know that we've handled the issues in our recruitment department. The people responsible are no longer with the company. You're joining a tech vanguard that's committed to doing better. Marcus was quiet for a moment. What exactly happened? I can't share all the details yet, James said. But I promise you justice was served. You were rejected because of discrimination. That discrimination has been eliminated. Thank you for telling me, Marcus said. And thank you for taking action. It's the least I could do, James replied. See you Monday morning. We have a lot of work ahead of us. As James hung up, he felt tired but satisfied. It had been a horrible morning, but it was also necessary. Tech Vanguard Solutions would be better for it. He opened his email and began drafting a message to the entire company. It was time to address this head-on. No more hiding. No more pretending everything was fine. His company had a problem. But now they were fixing it. And that was all that mattered. The company auditorium was packed that Monday afternoon. Every employee at Tech Vanguard Solutions had received an urgent meeting invitation from the CEO. Attendance was mandatory. People whispered to each other, trying to figure out what was happening. James Park walked onto the small stage at the front of the room. The whispers died down. Everyone turned to look at him. He looked tired but determined. Thank you all for coming, James began. I know this meeting was sudden, and I know you're all wondering what's going on, so I'm going to tell you directly. He paused and took a deep breath. This morning, I terminated 2 senior employees for discriminatory hiring practices. These employees systematically rejected qualified minority candidates based on race. They violated federal law, company policy, and basic human decency. The room erupted in shocked murmurs. James waited for them to quiet down before continuing. I'm not going to name these employees. That's not the point. The point is that this happened. In our company. Under my leadership. And I take full responsibility for not catching it sooner. Several people shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Nobody expected this level of honesty from their CEO. Over the past 2 years, highly qualified candidates were rejected because of the color of their skin. That is unacceptable. It's illegal. It's wrong. And it ends now. James clicked a button and a presentation appeared on the screen behind him. Starting today, we're implementing major changes to our hiring process. First, all resumes will be reviewed with names and photos removed. We'll judge candidates purely on qualifications. The next slide appeared. Second, all interview panels will include at least 3 people from different backgrounds. No more decisions made by just 1 or 2 people. Another slide. Third, mandatory training for everyone on unconscious bias and inclusive hiring. And I mean everyone, including me. James looked out at his employees. Some looked supportive. Others looked skeptical. A few looked uncomfortable. I know some of you are thinking this is just corporate talk, that nothing will really change. But I promise you, I'm serious about this. I built this company to be a place where talent matters more than anything else, where everyone gets a fair shot. I failed to live up to that promise, but I'm going to make it right. He clicked to the next slide. I want to introduce you to someone. Marcus Chen, can you stand up, please? In the back of the auditorium, Marcus slowly stood. All eyes turned to him. He felt his face grow hot with embarrassment and anxiety. Marcus is joining our engineering team today, James said. He's incredibly talented. He has the exact skills and experience we need, and he was initially rejected by our recruitment team for reasons that had nothing to do with his qualifications. The room was completely silent now. Marcus could feel hundreds of eyes on him. I personally reviewed Marcus's application, James continued. I met with him. I offered him a position, not because of diversity quotas or public relations, but because he deserved it, because he's the best person for the job. James gestured for Marcus to sit. Marcus gratefully dropped back into his seat. I'm telling you all this because I want to be transparent. I want you to understand that discrimination has no place at Tech Vanguard. Not in hiring, not in promotions, not in daily interactions, nowhere. James advanced to the final slide. It showed contact information for HR and an anonymous reporting hotline. If you experience discrimination, report it. If you witness discrimination, report it. I promise you, we will investigate every single complaint. We will take action. And we will not tolerate retaliation against anyone who speaks up. He clicked off the presentation. I know this is uncomfortable. These conversations are never easy, but we're going to have them anyway, because that's how we get better. James looked around the room one more time. Are there any questions? A hand went up in the middle section. A young black woman stood. Mr. Park, how do we know this isn't just damage control? How do we know real change will happen? That's a fair question, James said. Here's my answer. Hold me accountable. If you don't see change, call me out. I'm giving you permission right now to challenge me, to question me, to demand better. Actions speak louder than words. Watch what we do, not just what we say. Another hand went up. A middle-aged white man this time. What about the people who were fired? Don't they deserve a chance to defend themselves? James's expression hardened. They had clear evidence against them. Multiple violations, a pattern of behavior spanning 2 years. They had every chance to do the right thing and they chose not to. I stand by my decision 100%. A woman near the front raised her hand. Will there be more firings? I hope not, James said honestly. But if we discover more discrimination, yes. I will not hesitate to remove people who violate our values regardless of their position or tenure. Several more questions followed. James answered each one directly and honestly. Some people seemed satisfied. Others remained skeptical. But everyone was paying attention. Finally, James concluded the meeting. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for caring about this company. Let's get back to work. As people filed out of the auditorium, several employees approached Marcus. Some shook his hand and welcomed him. Others apologized on behalf of the company. One older engineer, a Hispanic man named Carlos, pulled Marcus aside. I've been here 8 years, Carlos said quietly. I always felt like something was off with hiring, but I couldn't prove it. Thank you for speaking up. I didn't speak up, Marcus admitted. I didn't even know what happened until after. But you're here now, Carlos said. That matters. Things are changing. Over the next few weeks, Marcus settled into his new role. His first day was nerve-wracking. He worried that people would resent him or see him as a token hire. But his fears were mostly unfounded. His manager, Jennifer Lee, the VP of Engineering, welcomed him warmly. I've read your file. I'm excited to have you on the team. She introduced him to the 10 engineers he would be leading. They ranged in age from 25 to 52. Most were white or Asian, 2 were women. They seemed curious but friendly. Marcus's first project was developing a new cloud infrastructure system for a major banking client. It was complex and challenging, exactly the kind of work he loved. During his first team meeting, he laid out his approach. I believe in collaboration. Everyone's voice matters. I don't care if you're fresh out of college or have 20 years of experience. Good ideas can come from anywhere. One of the younger engineers, a white woman named Emily, raised her hand. What if we disagree with your direction? Then tell me, Marcus said simply. Respectfully, with data to back it up. I'm not always right. I want people who will challenge me when I'm wrong. The team seemed to relax. This wasn't going to be a dictatorship. This was going to be a real collaboration. Marcus proved his worth quickly. Within 2 weeks, he had identified a major flaw in the original project plan. He brought the team together and showed them the problem. If we build it this way, it'll work initially, but it won't scale. In 6 months, when the client grows, the whole system will crash. One of the senior engineers, an Indian man named Raj, looked at the diagrams Marcus had drawn. "You're right. I can't believe we missed that." "You didn't miss it," Marcus said. "You hadn't seen it yet. Now we have, so let's fix it." They redesigned the system together. The final solution was elegant and scalable. Jennifer Lee was impressed enough to present it to the board as an example of excellent engineering. Meanwhile, James Park followed through on his promises. The company implemented blind resume reviews. Every hiring committee now included diverse voices. All employees completed unconscious bias training. James also established a partnership with 3 historically black colleges and universities. Tech Vanguard would recruit there, offer internships, and provide mentorship programs. "We're not just fixing a problem," James told Patricia. "We're building something better." The changes weren't universally popular. A few employees complained about reverse discrimination or political correctness. 2 people even quit in protest. James let them go without argument. "If our commitment to fairness bothers you, then this isn't the right place for you," he said. But most employees embraced the changes. The company culture began to shift. People felt more comfortable speaking up. Diverse perspectives started appearing in meetings. Innovation increased. 3 months after Marcus started, he presented his first major project to a client. The banking executives were impressed with the cloud infrastructure design. They signed a contract worth $2 million. After the meeting, the client's CTO pulled Marcus aside. "That was brilliant work. Your company is lucky to have you." Marcus felt a surge of pride. Not because of the praise, but because he had earned it. He hadn't gotten this opportunity because of his race. He hadn't been held back because of his race. He had succeeded because he was good at his job. James Park threw a celebration for the team that had won the banking contract. He personally congratulated each member. When he got to Marcus, he pulled him aside. "How are you doing?" "Really?" James asked. "Good," Marcus said honestly. "Better than I expected. The team respects me. The work is challenging. I feel valued." "I'm glad," James said. "You've exceeded every expectation. That presentation was outstanding." "Thank you," Marcus said. "And thank you for giving me this chance." "For taking action when you discovered the discrimination." James shook his head. "I should have caught it sooner. I should have been paying closer attention." "You caught it when it mattered," Marcus replied. "And you did something about it. That's more than most leaders would do." 6 months after the initial incident, Tech Vanguard's recruitment numbers told a clear story. Minority hires had increased by 40%. Employee satisfaction scores had improved across all demographics. Retention rates were up. But more importantly, the company felt different. There was more energy, more creativity, more honest conversation. People weren't afraid to bring their whole selves to work. Marcus was training a group of new interns when Sarah Mitchell's name came up in the news. She had been interviewed by an industry blog, claiming she was a victim of political correctness and cancel culture. One of the interns, a young black man named Tyler, asked Marcus about it. "Did you know her? The recruiter who was fired?" "I met her once," Marcus said carefully. "She interviewed me. Do you think she was treated unfairly?" Tyler asked. Marcus thought about this question. "I think she was treated exactly as fairly as she treated others. She made choices. Those choices had consequences. That's not cancel culture. That's accountability." "But she lost her job," another intern said. "And I almost lost an opportunity I had earned," Marcus replied. "Not because I wasn't qualified, but because of discrimination." "Is that fair?" The interns were quiet, thinking about this. "Here's what I learned," Marcus said. "Real change is uncomfortable. People who benefit from the old system will always complain when things change. But that doesn't mean change is wrong. It means it's necessary." Tyler nodded slowly. "I'm glad I'm interning here. I feel like I'll actually get a fair shot." "You will," Marcus promised. "And if you don't, you speak up. You report it. You don't stay silent." That evening, Marcus went home to Jennifer and their newborn daughter, Maya. He held his baby girl and thought about the world she would grow up in. It wasn't perfect, There was still discrimination, still injustice, still work to be done. But it was better than it had been, and it was getting better because people were taking action. James Park had taken action. Patricia and Minji had taken action. Even Marcus, by showing up and doing excellent work, was taking action. Change didn't happen because of good intentions. It happened because of concrete steps, difficult decisions, and consistent accountability. 6 months later, James Park was invited to speak at a conference about diversity in tech. He told the story of what had happened at Tech Vanguard, leaving out names but being honest about the situation. Some people asked me why I made it public, James said to the audience. Why I didn't just quietly fire the employees and move on. Here's why. Silence enables discrimination. When we hide these problems, we protect the people who cause them. He clicked to his next slide. But when we're transparent, when we acknowledge failures and show how we fix them, we create real change. Other companies can learn from our mistakes. Other leaders can follow our example. The audience applauded. After his speech, several CEOs approached him, asking for advice on how to address similar issues in their own companies. James gave them the same answer. Start by looking honestly at your data. Look at who you hire, who you promote, who you pay. If you see patterns of discrimination, address them immediately. Don't wait. Don't hope the problem will fix itself. Back at Tech Vanguard, life continued. Marcus led his team to complete 3 more major projects. He was promoted to Director of Cloud Engineering. Tyler, the intern, was offered a full-time position after graduation. The company that had almost rejected Marcus Chen because of racism had become a model for inclusive hiring. It wasn't perfect. There were still challenges, still moments of bias to address, but the foundation had changed. And it had changed because one CEO refused to look the other way, because one leader chose accountability over convenience, because one company decided that doing the right thing mattered more than avoiding discomfort. Marcus Chen looked at the team he had built over 2 years. It was diverse in every way that mattered. Different races, different genders, different backgrounds, different perspectives, but united in one goal: doing excellent work. This was what success looked like. Not just for him, but for everyone who came after. Every person who would now get a fair shot. Every candidate who would be judged on merit rather than skin color. James Park had kept his promise. Tech Vanguard Solutions had become the company it always claimed to be. A place where talent mattered most, where everyone got a fair chance, where discrimination had no place. It had taken courage, honesty, and hard work. But it had been worth it. The transformation was complete, and it had started with one simple thing. A CEO who chose to watch a security camera feed, who chose to investigate what he saw, and who chose to take action no matter the cost. That's all it took to change everything. One person willing to do the right thing.